This is the School Success Podcast, a podcast for school leaders to learn from other school leaders what's working and what's not, and to get inspiration and encouragement, as well as strategies to grow school enrollment, connect with families, retain teachers, recruit teachers, and everything in between. You guys are heroes, and I cannot thank you enough for pouring into this next generation that's coming behind us. My goal is you will take at least one thing away from every episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Please enjoy the School Success Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation.
Time for school.
Hey, School Success Makers. Welcome to another edition of the School Success Podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Slater. I'm joined by a new friend out of the great state of Texas, Brig Thompson, who is the head of school of 𝒂𝒂𝒑𝒂𝒄𝒉 Prep in Waxahachie, Texas. So I know Texans, they love their state, they love their barbecue, and they love their Christian education too, guys. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening in Texas, and we're going to dive into all of those things today on today's episode. But before we do that, we always pass it off to the guest to introduce themselves. So Brig, welcome to the podcast today, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mitchell. Really appreciate being here with you. And good job on Waxahachie. Not an easy name. So good job for Floridian getting Waxahachie right. Hey, just thanks so much for having us again. Love being a part of this school. This is actually my second school year here at this school. School is celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. So it's a really big year for the school. We are a collegiate hybrid model school. So we partner with homeschool parents and have students here either on campus twice a week if they're elementary age, or 3 times a week if they're secondary age, and they're homeschooled on those off days. So it's a really, really good model to create great relationships with students and families, and really a like-minded goals for the educational needs, the social needs of their students, and even more so, helping to promote and guide those faith-based needs for their kids as well. So great school, love the people here, and great things are going on.
Amen, man. Well, I'm looking forward to diving into all those in a little bit of what you guys are doing. Before we do that, I always ask everybody the same question, and I've never been to Waxahachie before, so this will be a good one. So if I was to visit you in Waxahachie, Texas, what would you say, Mitchell? You need to eat this and do this to experience Waxahachie.
Wow, that's a good question. We're about 30 minutes south of Dallas, so we're far enough to be our own thing. Waxahachie is a big weekend destination for a lot of people, for little quaint shops that we have and antiques. We have a beautiful county seat. So there's a lot of people that join us on the weekends for a lot of different things, including live music, you name it. So there are a number of wonderful restaurants here that have been around for a long time. Let's see. Wow, where would I go? I would tell you that you can't miss out on eating some great Mexican food downtown at, let's see, I'm trying to pick one over the other. I don't know if I want to say it. Then I walk into one of the places and they may say, hey, you didn't call us out, because I'm sure they're going to be listening to this podcast. But there are a number of good Mexican food restaurants downtown, as well as the Dove's Nest downtown, the great old shop down there. There's even Philly cheesesteak on the square of Waxahachie that is really, really good. Burger joints down there, Pop's Burgers. Wow, man, you name it. You can throw a rock and hit something you would not choose wrong.
Okay. And what do I got to do? So I'm going to eat all these good food, the burgers. I'm going to eat some Mexican food. I'm going to eat all this stuff, Philly cheesesteak. And then what do I need to do? Like, what's something like you got to do that if you're in Waxahachie? Is it going to listen to
You're going to want to walk. You're going to want to walk downtown. We have so much to see, so many shops to jump in and out of down there. We have Meat Church seasoning. I don't know if are you familiar with Meat Church. They do a lot of great meat seasoning, and their headquarters is right here downtown on the square. They're just wonderful people. They actually grill every Saturday, so you can go by there and get something free off the grill and give you a small glass of your choice of drink, and they're just great people. But you would definitely want to walk off whatever great food you had on the square and all through downtown Waxahachie.
All right. That sounds like a good time to me. I mean, the town we live in here in Florida, Port St. Lucie, there's not many, we don't really have a downtown, so it's kind of lame. There's a couple of places you can go that are like sort of a feel of a downtown, but I kind of miss that. I miss there's like not a downtown. I have to go to the next couple cities over to actually have the downtown experience. So our city's kind of lame. So that sounds very, very inviting to have a downtown. I know Texans are very passionate about their state too, which I always respect. So I love that. Well,
Yes.
to dive in today, I know we talked about some subjects on our pre-call for this. And one of the things you mentioned specifically that was a focus of what you guys are doing that is just helping families with reclaiming family time. And I know, you guys have obviously a unique model. They're not there 5 days a week for 6 to 8 hours a day. And then boom, they're home. And then that's obviously right into, dinner time, bedtime. And it's like, it's very fast. We live in a very fast-paced world, fast-paced country in our culture. But you're really big on like, hey, we want to help people reclaim family time. When you say that, what does that mean for you and you guys? What you're doing, and what does that look like?
Yeah, great question. I've been in education for 28, 29 years now, and this is the first hybrid model school that I've been a part of, and I absolutely love the model. For one, parents here are very like-minded in the fact that they have made that choice to lead the way in the education of their children and to make sure they're spending that time with them, that they want to really instill the family values of discipleship and the things that they want with their kids on a daily basis. And when we speak of reclaiming time, it's in a number of ways. We obviously have them here during the week on school days here, but on the homeschool days, our parents get to be right there with their kids, going through lessons, talking with them, going through examples, going through the lesson plans that we're providing for their children. But instead of farming their entire education out, if you did the hours are scary when you figure out how many hours your kids are away from you all their school career, and then they're 18 and they're seniors and they're out. So this is a wonderful way for parents to realize, hey, I can reclaim that time with my children. It's a sacrifice because that's going to involve someone being home. And you and I both know we live in a very much a two-work culture, two working families, two working parents culture. So it is a sacrifice that our parents make for one of them to be home, or they switch to part-time work. So they're only working when their kids aren't at homeschool, doing homeschool. So it is a change for them in that way. But when their kids are there, they get to be with them and around them. And there's flexibility to how they want to complete their lessons. If there's a family trip that's coming up and they want to be with their kiddos, well, it's easy for them to switch to and doing their lessons while they're on the trip, or if they need to leave early. But all of that's with them. So again, it's just a reclaiming of time with their kids. And time, even in instruction, as a parent, is still time with their kids, right there in there with it. They can talk to a lot of different things when they're doing whichever subject they're in. The parents are there helping in that instruction. So that reclaiming of that special time is invaluable to that family unit.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the number is, if we're talking about if it's pre-K or kindergarten all the way to 12th, I think it's around 16,000 hours or something like that around that time that they're away in school. And I remember hearing a stat, and I believe the stat. I mean, I'm pretty, it sounds believable. I think it said 95, it was 90 or 95% of the time we spend with our kids is between the years of 0 to 18, and the majority of it's obviously 0 to 5, because obviously they're typically maybe not in daycare right away. I know some are, but so you think about the time is that the majority is 0 to 18, but then they're at school for 16,000 hours of that time if they're going to school full time. You're like, my goodness. And then after that, they're on their own lives. They're on to college, they're on to getting their own family started potentially. And it's like, wow, when do we actually spend time with them? And it's like, it's sad when you think about it, because I know we run into what is it, 7 to 4, whatever, 8 to 4, what it ends up being. We got sports, you got extracurriculars, you got music lessons, you got all these church activities. It's like, man, like when do they get to be actually a family unit? And then it's like weekend trips, it's sports games on Saturday. It's like it never stops. It's like, when do we actually have time to spend quality time. And I think that's where it comes, like what you're talking about, quality time. And I even think about our own family, myself, we're big on like, and we want to eat dinner together as a family. There's no screens. We just eat together and hang out as a family and not rush through it, enjoying bedtime routine because the kids are still little. And so like investing in it, not watching a movie together per se, I guess, because you're like not really talking and hanging out. You're just sitting in the room. So I know there's a lot of different ways, but I feel like we just rush through it. And then we're always looking towards that the next season. Like, oh, when the kids are out of the house, then this. And it's like, man, the journey is the reward, which I've heard over and over again of like, enjoy the journey that you're on, because you're just always going to wish you could go back. I would assume into those years.
That's right. It is extremely important and great points. That's our society. It's a rush. We pack our schedules, and at some point, as a parent, you have to be able to step back and go, wait a minute, I'm going to defend my family time, whatever that means. And sometimes that may be not doing something that your children want to do. But as the parent, that if we do that time, I'm going to lose you for that amount of time. So there has to be that constant balance of choosing to defend the family unit and allowing them still to grow in areas and the ways God's gifted them to grow. So it's a great model to live by as a school. There's no perfect school. There's no perfect way of doing anything, but I do love the fact that parents do get to reclaim time when it comes to this model. And it's not all homeschool. They're also partnering with a school that are professional, that are accredited, that their teachers know what they're doing, that they lean on us for lesson plans and helping them to grow into what they need as they graduate high school, whether that next step is college for them, whether that next step is entrepreneurship for them, whether that next step is the ministry for them. We want to prepare them alongside the parents for as long as we can. And so it's a really great relationship that we have with those parents to make sure all those goals happen.
It's such a good happy medium, because obviously full-on homeschooling can be really intimidating, especially when you get into the upper grades. Yes. You're like, I don't know how to teach calculus. I don't know how to teach these things, that are for older students. So it's like, if you could do a happy medium of like, I want to do this, but I also want them to not miss out. That's also awesome. And so I'll ask this, because I know this is a big thing. I was homeschooled my whole life. And so there's all the things that if you want to say I missed out on, but I was able to play sports for the local public school, which was a cool perk of being homeschooled in that area that I grew up in. But you miss out on like homecoming and prom and some of these different things. So for you guys as a hybrid, are you guys adding those things in to try and give the students those experiences, or saying, hey, that's not a part of what we do, you need to try and find them somewhere else? What does that look for some of those extracurriculars?
Yeah, we do a lot of that, just as part of the attempt to make our student culture deep and meaningful to them as well. We want them to establish those relationships. So we have homecoming. We have all those things. We have, middle school, high school retreats that we go on together. We've done trips. So there's a lot of things when it comes down to school culture that we're still a part of, that our students still get to experience, being around their peers, overnight with chaperones and those types of things. Traveling is a very important part of as students grow up, to learn to travel and be responsible for yourself and see things beyond your little world that you live in. So all those things are extremely important when it comes to the homeschool hybrid experience. I think it helps them to get around other students. And it's a big difference between being a school, an institution, and going to a homeschool co-op program somewhere, because the institution is definitely going to have some expectations and goals of themselves as a school, because they're putting their name on that diploma when the kids graduate from there. So they want to make sure that they're dotting all their I's and crossing all their T's as a school to make these things happen. But I think the parents that partner with us, that's what they're looking for. They want someone that they know they're getting what they're supposed to get when it comes to the full education. And part of that education is everything from athletics to fine arts to culture. Student culture is a big part of that. It's a big part of growing up, and we want our students to be able to experience that too. But in an environment where we're a little more choosy. about, what they get, and we make sure the parents are okay with what we're doing in that same moment, because we've been kind of force fed education, what it's supposed to look like and what it's supposed to be and what school culture is supposed to be. We've been force fed that for a long time, mostly by state institutions that have their own version of school culture and the things that need to be a part of that. We get to say, no, that doesn't work for us and doesn't work for our families. So we definitely get to be more choosy, but there are lots of opportunities and choices for our kids to be involved.
Hey, school success makers, Mitchell here. I just want to take a really quick break from the show to give a big, huge shout out to the Herzog Foundation. I absolutely love the Herzog Foundation. I've been friends and partners with them for a couple of years now, but we're bringing it to a whole new level. And I'm excited to share that our very own School Success podcast is now featured on the Herzog Foundation Podcast Network. The Herzog Foundation is a powerhouse of resources designed to support schools like yours, from free training events through the Herzog Foundation Institute to their incredible online news publication, The Lion, and of course, our new podcast, Home. They have everything you need to stay informed and inspired. And if you're dreaming of starting your own Christian school or co-op, don't miss their online course, Schoolbox. It's a fantastic resource to help you get started on the right foot. At School Success, we're proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation to bring you these valuable tools and insights. So visit herzogfoundation.com to explore all they have to offer. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on these amazing opportunities for growth and success. And I love all the people over there, and I know you guys will too. So please go check them out, and you won't be disappointed. Now, back to the show. And I know a big piece of what you guys are offering and what you're doing is, you mentioned discipleship is a big piece of this, which I feel like churches even struggle with this part of like, hey, we're going to do this specifically, but then they might forget or miss out on discipleship. And I know that happens with the schools as well. And so I know you mentioned specifically like, hey, this is a big piece of like, we pour into this, we make this, we're intentional with discipleship. So what are I'd love you to share some of the things you guys are doing when it comes to discipleship, which I'm hoping is an encouragement to those that are listening to go, oh man, we could easily add something like that. And we're not doing that currently. So what are those things you're doing for discipleship?
Yeah, great question. Discipleship is, again, it has to be a core part of who you are as a Christian school. And one of the things that we talk to parents about is we are in a complementary discipleship with them, and not a competing discipleship with them as what they're going to get in public school, for sure. We want to support those family values. And these parents have already agreed to our statement of faith. We've already had these conversations with them in the admissions process for them to understand who we are, what their students are going to get. So when it comes to that, we want to put on very meaningful chapels that are not afraid to attack the hard subjects and the difficult subjects. We don't want to just, we want our students to think. And we want them to think critically, and we want them to think for themselves. Apologetics is a big part of who we are as our students get older. And before they get out of here, we want them to be able to defend their faith in a way that glorifies God and is not combative. It's just the facts, and they're full of truth. The only way you get to do that is through constant discipleship. And that's from kindergarten through 12th grade. So we are always doing a number of things, whether it's in class or outside of class, to develop those deeper relationships with our students, asking those questions, giving them opportunity for them to ask the hard questions. And of course, that they get harder as they get older. But that's not a confined movement just to chapel or just to Bible class. We want, when students are going through a novel, we really want those questions to be asked in class, so teachers can mentor their students through those things and talk openly about, let's hear what you're asking. Let's go see what the Bible says about that, and stop what they're doing and do that very thing. It's not a race to get to the end of a subject. It's making sure that those questions are answered along the way. We've all seen the studies of what happens when our students leave us and graduate, and how many walk away from their faith in their young 20s. And it's unfortunately a very large number. Now, there's a large number that still come back to their faith. But one of the reasons is, and if you start looking at those very surveys, one of the reasons they walk away from their faith is because the people they're around, whether that's their youth group, whether that's their pastor, whether it's their Christian school, they did not want to dive into the hard subjects with them. So the hard questions, the questions that hit them in the face when they get to college or outside of their own home, away from their mom and dad, some of those really challenging situations hit them dead on, and they don't have enough standing on that to make an argument that they're comfortable with themselves. So part of that very thing that we have to do is have hard conversations. Make sure our students are prepared for their faith to be challenged, for their belief system to be challenged, but not just because this is my mom and dad's faith. This is my faith. This is my personal relationship with Jesus. This is what I know to be truth in God's word. What is history? Why does history support the Bible so much? Why is there so much history in the Bible? Because it declares truth. It's timeless. So we have to, it's a long answer to your question, but it is a complete school-wide effort of discipleship that has to be part of everything that we do. It's more of a, Roger Erdvig has a book right now that we're going through. It's called Beyond Biblical Integration. And it's a great book. Sorry, Roger, I don't get any money for that, but but it's a great book because it discusses that you yourself and your team have to be biblically immersed in God's word and truth for biblical integration to even come out in the classroom. It's not throwing a scripture up there, or it's not having a Bible lesson in class and calling that biblical integration. You know, if you're going to be that, then our school, our very school itself, has to be biblically immersed in the truth of God's word to make sure the hope and light and love of Jesus comes out in all that we do. So in answer to that, it's not one thing, it's all the things that take place to make sure that discipleship is just in everything, in every aspect that we do. It's in our staff meetings, our faculty meetings, and we talk about that. What are we doing to disciple our children? This is coming up this week, this event, whatever it is. That's great. It's going to be fun. How are we using that in the discipleship of our children? You know, what are we going to learn from that? So we try to talk about all these things as a team to make sure we have a very coordinated effort and a collective effort, that we're all on the same page when it comes to those things. So this book we're going through this year together and having these discussions at staff meetings, having lunch and learns to discuss these. How are we biblically immersing ourselves so we can be that person of discipleship that our students need us to be?
I had never heard that about that study. So I've heard obviously the studies about, obviously we all know that students leave. They leave their faith, they leave the church in mass numbers. But that it was because of the people have avoided hard conversations and didn't have a way to stand their ground. I've never heard that is one of the main reasons. That is, it's sad, but also encouraging to know if that is the main thing. Well, let's start solving that. It's like actually tangible. Like we know what we need to try and help them do. And that makes, I could say like that makes sense. You get to college and this professor is like saying all these things. You're like, oh my gosh, I never thought about that before. He's right, you know? And then boom, like, why would my whole life was a lie. I've been going to church and I shouldn't have been going to church. You know, that makes actually a lot of sense. Was there anything else from that just kind of fascinated me? Anything else from that study that stood out to you?
Well, just as an affirmation to that, if you look at the success of Charlie Kirk and what's going on with him, and now the movement after him, almost in honor of him, it underlines that very support, because Charlie took on the hard subjects and he took them on college campuses with anybody that wanted to talk about it, including those professors that would challenge those very things. And now what are we seeing? We're seeing a huge revival among young people that are saying, I'm not walking away from my faith. As a matter of fact, I'm ready to stand up for my faith now more than they ever have before. Why? Because they've discussed the hard things. Now they're reading and understanding and realizing these aren't just opinions that Gen X had. These are what the Bible has said about these things. And it was done with love, and it was not done with hate or discord. It was like, hey, these are just the facts from God's word. And you're seeing young people now that have taken on that banner from him and moved forward, and they're proving that very thing, that young people now all over college campuses everywhere are not walking away from their faith. They're walking to their faith, many for the first time. Many are now taking their faith of what they left home with and making it bigger than it's ever been for them. So I couldn't think of a better affirmation of that question than what we're seeing happen right now.
You are 100% right. And I love that. So it's a good encouragement, those that are listening, for if you don't have a piece of that in your school or even just in your family as a discipleship side, that is kind of we'll say proven of like, we're seeing this is what people are saying in a survey for why. So if we know that's why are we not doing that then going forward? So I'm not putting all the weight on the schools. Obviously, I think this is like a parent thing too. Parents should be, specifically the fathers, I think, should be leading in this area specifically to help there. But the schools can partner through partnership, then that's a great. They're hearing it from dad, hearing it from mom, and then they're also hearing it from the school, and they're also hearing it from the church. And that's like the trifecta would be the best of both worlds if we could make that happen.
Three-legged stool.
So you also do some things for helping parents. I know you do some stuff with moms and dads, some classes, I think, for parents as well. Tell me about some of those the resources you guys offer.
You bet. We started a new program this year with we call it Kingdom Dads, because we really want dads to come together and not only spend time in earnest prayer for the school, for their kids, but to also share just what it's like being a dad and holding that mantle of fatherhood down, being the expected disciplinarian of the home, but also the spiritual leader of the home. And it's a great topic to discuss because it definitely comes with some pressure from dads. And some dads are leading the way for the first time in their family as being the spiritual leader. At our last Kingdom Dads meeting, we talked about this generational faithfulness and where they fell along the spectrum of that. And it was interesting. Some of them were multi-generations of faithfulness. Their grandfathers were people that loved Jesus and people that have been living that way. And some stories were much worse than that. My dad was a drug addict, or I didn't know my dad because he left the scene as soon as my mom got pregnant. And, so they're numero uno when it comes to the generational faithfulness begins with me. So it starts with me and what I'm trying to do with my family. So it was great conversation about that with all of our dads and what that means, because it means something different to all of them, but it means something very significant to each of them, just where they are along that line. Whether they've had generations or not, it still falls to them to keep that moving forward. And just the blessings that come along that with that familial long line of faith in Jesus, and how much even more so it is so important for those new dads that have come along and have made the decision is like, my family was a mess. My family didn't go to church. I didn't know the Lord till as a young adult, and even an older adult. But now this is what I'm doing, and it's all, it's new to me. And so I appreciate y'all's prayers in this as I'm walking this road. And now you got men that are talking to each other and it's like giving each other numbers. Hey, you get stuck on something, you call me, and I'll be happy to go down this road with you, and we'll go grab some coffee and talk this through. And I think it's special being able to do that at a school, because your school's kind of looked at as neutral ground, because we're a multi-denominational school. We have, I think some have joked us and called us, let's see if I can get the name right. We are we are Presba Baptist Costal. Prebda Baptist Costal School. That's what we are. So anyway, we're a great melting pot of all these different churches that are represented in our community, and the same thing for dads and moms. So they come here and they're very open to listening and talking to one another, and it's kind of a special thing that because many of them are part of groups in their own churches, right? But in their school community, it's been good for them to come together and have these types of discussions, and knowing how important it is for them to know each other as school families. But this Kingdom Dads group has been very special from the start, and we do it monthly, and we have really really good discussions in there with these dads, and looking forward. We're already looking forward to the next one. So it's have already indicated want to keep this talk about generational faithfulness going again, because there was just a lot that came out of that. So we probably going to continue that discussion a little bit further. But that's great. We have Moms in Prayer here that meets. They meet weekly, and then they also do once a month a little more social time that they can hang out after that and have some coffee and some treats together. Women like to socialize a little bit more than men often. Men like come in, talk, have their coffee, and go to work. So women about once a month, they want to just kind of hang out a little bit more, build those relationships a little bit more with one another, and that is a beautiful thing. So there's nothing like just having a campus covered in prayer by parents. I know out of Moms in Prayer now, they're about to start dividing up into teams and coming up on different days to just pray over our campus, to come in, get their passes from us, and then they just walk the campus and pray over it. And with the dark world that we live in, we all want to pray for safety on our campus. As much prayer and over safety as we can get. Great, beautiful thing to do. So those are a couple of things we do. We also want to make sure that we're helping our parents, especially since they're our homeschool parents. We want to do what we can on our end to help navigate what school looks like at home. And some of them are already wonderful educators, whether they went to school for it or not. They do great jobs. But others are maybe wanting a little help. And we want to be able to give them tips and things that they can do at home. So our teachers take turns doing that. We have different people set up for different things, as well as our lower school and upper school principal that'll be helping out with the same thing. So we have those different ways of serving our families, our parents. We match that with ACSI is about to release a brand new program called Flourishing Families, and we're going to probably really piggyback on a lot of the things they're doing there as well, in addition to what we're doing. So we're excited to see that program come to fruition. It's just now coming out. So again, whatever we can do to help our families navigate this world of education and child development and all the crazy that goes through raising children all the way up to 18 and beyond, we want to do our part as the professionals, as people that just have like-mindedness and the same idea of success that we want to help them reach with their children. We want to do that.
Hey, I just want to take a really quick break from the podcast to highlight one of our amazing partners and sponsors, ClassReach. If you're a new school administrator or founder and are struggling to keep up with all the hassles of planting a new school, like collecting tuition, communicating with parents, or handling student data, then you need ClassReach. ClassReach is the all-in-one software that helps with everything from admissions and tuition to classroom management and parent communications. Sign up for a free consultation with one of their school specialists and see how ClassReach can help your school grow today. You guys can check them out online, classreach.com. They are a kingdom-minded company, and I love their leadership team there. I've become friends with a lot of them. They truly are a great company. I support them, and I love them, and you guys will love them too. Check them out at classreach.com. Now, back to the show. I love it. Well, I know a part of all this, culture is extremely important, and we know that culture, it has to be intentional. It doesn't typically just happen. It has to be cultivated, has to be planned out typically, and it can also be messed up and destroyed very, very quickly too if the wrong people get in there, or you have the wrong hire or something like that. And you shared something that was really cool about, you did something that I just thought was super unique and made me laugh. I mean, it was just like, oh, that's a good point. But it cost a lot of money to do this thing, to create culture. What did you guys do to create culture that cost you a lot of money?
Yes, I was at a school in Houston at the time, and when I got there, it was a great school, and they had a really nice gym that they had shared with the church, and one of the things that was missing in this gym that I noticed really quickly, there were no bleachers in the entire gym. So my question was, I'm playing the new dumb guy. I said, okay, I'm going to ask the obvious question. Why aren't there any bleachers in there? They're like, well, we just haven't everyone spend the money on it. We maximize room this way. Parents just come and they just put their chairs all the way around on the gym, and it works. And that way, the church can have full use of all the gym space, and when we're not there. And I was like, okay. I said, well, have we thought about that again lately? And they were like, well, not really. It's just, it costs a lot of money. And I was like, well, I get it. I also see how much we have in reserves right now. And I said, let me just take you through some scenarios. I said, bleachers around an athletic facility create a lot more than just seating space. They create an environment of community. Now you're going to have people that are sharing space right next to each other. They're going to start seeing each other weekly. Their kids are going to start seeing other kids weekly. I said, and what you get to develop out of that is something that you're not expecting. It's a whole new depth of community in your school. You'll see other parents become best friends because now they're sitting right next to each other during the game, and they look forward to sitting right next to each other as the season progresses. They're supporting their children, and now they're not just individual lawn chairs that are all spread out all around the gym. Now there's a culture of togetherness there. So yeah, it costs a lot of money, but what you're going to get out of that on the other side of this is a whole brand new depth in your community that you've never had before. So they believe me, and we spent the money on the bleachers, and they could not tell me how right we were enough after those got in, because it just created a different life. And it's something little, it's small. It's like, okay, let's throw some bleachers out there, and they're more comfortable anyway. Yes to all that, but the byproduct of that is that community culture that you want to establish with your families and your school, and that's just one small thing to do so.
I love that, man. And it's one of those things too. You could easily see something like that happen from the outside. Let's say another school, or even a parent from the outside going, they just dropped $150,000 or something on these bleachers. What a waste of money. And only see dollar signs. But if you sit down and you hear from leadership and you say, hey, this is what we heard, this is what we saw, this is what we did, and here's what happened afterwards. When you hear the full picture of something, you're like, oh, you know what? I get it. And you're probably still going to, of course, have people go, well, that was not being a good steward, or that was not what. I'm sure those are obviously just naturally going to happen. It happens at churches too. But you see there's the full 360 view of like, all right, I see it. Because it's also going to be there for years. I mean, I would think inside a gym, that will most likely be there, let's just say forever. I mean, the chances of them going, we need to replace that entire thing of bleachers in 25 years or 50 years is probably just not going to happen unless the gym gets demolished or something.
That's right. Long-term investment.
Culture. There'll be multiple generations of culture that'll be built over these bleachers. So I love that.
But along those same lines, as you mentioned earlier, you have to be smart about what you're going to do to culture as well. You have to be intentional, and you have to be attentive to what the culture is. I love the old Peter Strobel quote that culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can come up with all the greatest strategies that you want. You've read books and leadership this and leadership that. If you don't understand your culture, and you come up with a great strategy to have this new idea or new program or whatever, and without understanding your culture, you're going on a very small, thin, fragile limb. And many learn the hard way on that one. So yeah. I think probably all of us have at some point in time, but it is certainly something that I've learned now to understand and get to know your culture before you try to make any changes or do something that they're not used to.
Yeah. I feel like a way that I just randomly thought of, let maybe demonstrate this. This is a stretch, but maybe hear me out. So you think about the Chick-fil-A versus like McDonald's, or you even use Burger King as the example, because I feel like Burger King's struggling, in my opinion, from my perspective when I go in to visit. If you look at a Chick-fil-A, you can go to Chick-fil-A anywhere across the country. Obviously, menu is going to be the same, but there is a vibe. There is a feeling of when you go into Chick-fil-A that is just very unique to who they are, where you typically, they're going to say, they should, say my pleasure, and they're typically more, they're happy, and the service is good, the food is good. Like, it's just a different feeling. The culture that they have built in that company and the way they manage that and regulate it on the ownership level is just crazy cool. And then you go to McDonald's, and you can have a great experience at McDonald's, but you can go to another one and be like, oh my goodness, like this is brutal, like this is rough, like what we're going against. And I literally, I mean, I say this specifically because I just had this last week. We went to a McDonald's, and I love a good Big Mac. Don't get me wrong, I love a Big Mac and fries. But we went in there and like ordered, $30 worth of food, and waited almost half an hour for our food to get there from inside the McDonald's. And I'm not exaggerating. I looked at my receipt because I had to talk to the staff, and we got our food, and I was like, oh, we were trying to order Big Mac sauce from the little kiosk things. Didn't have to order with them. There was no option to order Big Mac sauce for dipping, which was what we love. So I went and asked, like, hey, there was no way to order it with the sauce you guys offered. Can I just get some Big Mac sauce? And she's like, yeah, we have some in the back. It'll be 43 cents. And I said, oh, well, it offered it, and I didn't accept the sauce that you guys were offering because it wasn't an option. So it didn't include it. She goes, no, it's 43 cents. I was like, okay, well, we did wait almost half an hour for our food. And I showed her the receipt timestamp, where it was. And she's like, I can't help you. It's 43 cents for a sauce. And I was like, oh man, like
goodness.
In my head, I'm like, I'm not, and I was super nice, of course, the whole time. But like that type of stuff, it was like, not saying Chick-fil-A would have automatically, but they do give you unlimited sauce. I mean, they're not going to like cap you out of sauces, but it's like those little things like the culture and then the strategy, like their strategy is no, we charge for every itty bitty little thing now, even refills. And then Chick-fil-A is like free refills still. Hey, free sauces. Hey, my pleasure. It is a different feeling. That was a really long tangent to say, obviously, yes, culture is very important. It makes me want to go back to places more and more. Even if the food wasn't as good, I'm still going to go there because I was treated well and fine. So sorry for the long tangent. I just thought of that. I wanted to share when we talk about culture.
Yeah, culture is such a great topic, because if you want a healthy school, a healthy culture is paramount when it comes to that. And then you have to decide, is our culture healthy? And what culture do we have? Because cultures are often historical in nature. They've happened over a long period of time. So when you see a school, for example, when I'm at a school, I like to ask a few questions like, is this a culture of excellence? Is in excellence in all things, not just do we expect excellence of our students? Do we expect excellence from our team? Do we expect excellence from our events, our facilities? Excellence should cover everything. One of the things that we kind of launched this year as an internal motivation to us is excellence does not happen on accident. It is something that is very intentional and has to be worked for. And it's something that, again, like you mentioned earlier, that journey, it's to seek excellence. It is definitely a journey, but you have to set your sights on that every single day. It's like our walk with Christ. I want my walk today to be better than my walk was yesterday. And as an educator, I want to do a better job by my students, by my faculty, by my parents. I want to do a better job today than I did yesterday. So it's that same journey of excellence that we have to seek out. But it is not something that, you're just going to roll the dice and hopefully it's going to happen. It is something that is very intentional and takes work and takes effort and takes motivation and opportunities for your team to grow in that.
That's good. Well, that's a perfect segue into the last question there, Brig. So you've been doing education a while and you have a lot of advice. I know you could share even more than what you've already shared, but if you were to share one final piece of advice with the school leaders listening, what would that one final piece of advice be?
If I'm talking to school leadership, I would say the biggest advice I could give to a school leader is make sure every night when you lay your head down that you're good with Christ, that our priorities and our demands of our time and our agendas and our schedules and our meetings are very demanding of us. We are asked 100 million questions a day and are expected to get those answers right. Sometimes we would like a lot longer time period to answer a question than what we get. So for us to make good choices and good decisions, our hearts and our minds and our walk with Jesus needs to be very close. I try to operate under the stay dusty mentality, right? Have you heard that before?
I haven't.
About staying dusty. That's about traveling. It's the old Jewish proverb about you stay so close to your rabbi that you literally have dust on you from being right in your rabbi's right in your teacher's footsteps. And our rabbi, of course, is Jesus, right? So we want to stay dusty in the teachings of Jesus. We want to be right there with him. So when we're making these decisions that are often that we have to make quick, that we're led in the Spirit to make sure that they're the right decision as we're loving on people, and our decisions change lives.
Amen. Stay dusty. I like that. I'm gonna steal that one from you. So that's good. Stay
You
dusty.
bet.
Brig, thank you for taking time out of your day. I know it's the school year's in session, so thank you for taking time out of that to hop on the podcast and talk and pour into our listeners. And I'm wishing you and the school nothing but the best. You guys continue to grow and educate more students across the great state of Texas.
Hey, Mitchell, I really appreciate your time, and thanks for having me on today.
Well, another huge shout out and a thank you to Brig for taking time and being on the podcast today. Love what he's doing over there in Texas, and I'm wishing them nothing but the best as they continue to grow and educate the next generation that's coming behind us. And as always, guys, I'm hoping you were able to take at least one thing away from today's episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Before you guys go for today, I do want to make sure you are aware of our 3 free resources available here at School Success. And the first one is, of course, the School Success podcast that you're listening to right now. We are dropping episodes every single Monday morning that we want to make sure you're not missing out on. So make sure you are subscribed. And if you love our content, which I'm really hoping you do since you're listening to this right now, we would love a 5-star review. Doesn't cost you anything, just takes you a little bit of time to leave that. That would mean a lot to myself and my team because we do work really, really hard to bring this to you every single week. The second free resource is on our website, schoolsuccessmakers.com. In the top right-hand corner is a button, the School Success Report, that can be emailed directly to your inbox every single week with articles the team has either written or found online to help you, the school leader, be more successful. And we want to make sure you're not missing out on that one as well. Last but not least is our free Facebook community called School Success Makers. It's pretty awesome. There's a few hundred people in there that are school leaders from all over the country and some internationally that we want to make sure you are connected with to build community and learn from each other. So go join that if you haven't yet been in there. I'm personally in there. I would love to see you in there as well. Well, we will be back here next week with another awesome guest as usual on the School Success Podcast. We'll see you then. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.